Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Stem Cells. My name is Zoë Dworsky-Fried, and I am the Volunteer Engagement Coordinator with Let's Talk Science. For this next session, we're going to conduct a second interview with a professional who works with stem cells. We're going to ask him about his background, his research, and how he got to his current position. I am so pleased to welcome Dr. Paganelli. He is currently the Deputy Head of Metabolic and Cardiovascular Health Axis at the St. Justine Research Center, which is a pediatric hospital affiliated with the University of Montreal. He is also an assistant professor in the Department of Pediatrics and practices as a pediatric gastroenterologist and hepatologist. He has done quite a bit of training to get where he is today. He completed his medical studies at the University of Rome and started caring for children with liver diseases during his first fellowship in pediatric hepatology at the University of Naples. He then moved to Brussels for more training in hepatology and liver transplantation, where he started focusing on liver cell transplants and cell therapy for the treatment of liver diseases. He then also completed a PhD in pediatric hepatology and cell therapy, and his research has led to several prizes, presentations at international meetings, and several scientific publications. Dr. Paganelli then went on to do more training for his clinical with fellowship in pediatric gastroenterology and nutrition at the Hospital St. Justine, where he now works, as I mentioned, as a pediatric gastroenterologist. And he also conducts research on the use of stem cells for the treatment of liver diseases. So this is a great person to be speaking to if you have any interest in medicine, research, and stem cells. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your work in stem cell research?
Hi, sure. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. What we do, my lab started in 2015, and we've been working on using stem cells for actually aiming at treating liver disease. So there is a part of our research that's focused on understanding the diseases, so studying what causes them and trying to understand the mechanism behind that. And the other part is obviously focused on trying to find treatments, so what's called cell therapy. And for that, we use stem cells. So for both the study of the diseases and the treatment, we are basing our research entirely on stem cells. And go ahead, sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's really amazing. It's really impressive what you can do with stem cells and what you're trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you. It's the entire research we do is based on the clinical activity that we have. So basically, myself, as you said, I'm a pediatric hepatologist. So I take care of children with liver disease. And in Quebec, there are just 3 of us. So we are basically trying to see all the children that have more serious liver diseases, and we take care of them before and after the transplant. And obviously that leads to the need to find new treatments. So the research I do and the research my team has been doing for several years now, it's really focused on trying to find new ways to answer the needs of these children.
Yeah, that's incredible. And especially with your specialization, it's really important work. So I mentioned that you completed your MD as well as your PhD. Can you tell us a little bit about the path that you took to get to each degree and why you felt passionate about pursuing each specific one?
Yeah, when I got into medicine, actually, I never thought about having also a research career. So I got into medicine in Italy, in Rome, just to help people, and then as everyone actually to try to improve the quality of life of people. Then during my training, I ended up taking care of liver diseases, as you said, and then I went to Brussels. That's one of the top centers in the world for actually liver transplantation in children. And once there, I discovered research. So basically, they introduced me to the world of stem cells. They introduced me to everything that can be done and that will be done in the future with this tool. And then I got passionate about research. So it's a long path. Basically, being an MD PhD is a very long path. So it's many years of study, many years of training, but it's also extremely rewarding and very fun because you get to travel, to know a lot of people, and you get to actually to expand your horizon. So having a research career actually together with your clinical activity is very important because it actually makes you a better physician, and also your clinical activity makes you a better scientist because you know what questions need to be answered.
Yeah, that's definitely so true, especially for a lot of physicians, being able to see what they see in the clinic and then take it back to the lab and focus on that. It's great. It's really important. So in your role as a pediatric hepatologist, and I guess as an assistant professor or researcher, what does your typical work day or work week look like? And do you think COVID has changed your work day a lot?
Actually, yeah, it's you have to be good at multitasking. So my academic activities are reduced to the minimum because obviously my clinical and research activities take most of the time. So I mostly take care of my patients and my lab. I also have a third hat that I'm wearing because I co-founded a biotech that's a regenerative medicine biotech, Morphosat Technologies. So I have a third hat that I have to wear as CEO and co-founder of this company. And that's because we need to bring the technology we are developing in the lab, the therapies, to the patient. And that's only through these kind of biotech companies that you can do actually the jump from the lab to the clinic. So basically you have three hats to wear, and you have juggle with your time. So it's just a matter of, getting organized and working well under pressure.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I didn't know about the biotech company. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And I guess how you started that for maybe if any students are interested in industry.
Yeah, sure. Actually, it was a consequence of how well the research was going in the lab. So as I told you, we are working on actually engineering liver tissues from stem cells. And the results we were having in terms of efficacy and safety of this treatment were very promising. So at a certain point, the rhythm you have in the university, in the academia, was too slow actually to allow the development of this technology and to bring this to the clinic. There is a need for a lot of investment because it's very expensive to bring these therapies to the clinic, to the patient. And there is not enough public funding, obviously, for that. That's not the reason. That's not how public funding should be spent, obviously. So this is why we had to create a company. And then it was the co-founder was me and my wife who actually co-discovered and co-invented all of this. So we've been working together since the beginning. That's why I say we. It's not a pluralis majestatis. It's really because we are two into for the entire adventure, and basically, it's we found ourselves needing to create a company. We found very good people that helped us do that, and then and things went on and grew from there.
That's amazing. And that's so nice to hear that you're doing this with your wife. And you must have a lot to talk about over dinner. What are the most important skills needed for being a physician? And what are the most important skills needed for being a researcher?
I think as a physician, the most important skill is empathy. So you need to care for your patients. There is, all the rest, it's less important. Then as a researcher, as a clinical scientist, as I said, you need to work well under pressure. If you actually don't cope well with stress, that's not actually your path. Otherwise, it would be too hard. So you really need to work well under pressure. And I think in every field, at a certain point, you need to be able to delegate. So you need to trust your team. So find the right team and then trust your team and trust them with the important decisions as well. Otherwise, there is no way you can do 2 or 3 jobs. You really need to delegate and to trust your people.
That's great. Thank you. What kind of tools or equipment or technology do you mostly use in your work? I guess this would relate mostly to your research or your company.
Yeah, in terms of everything that's based on stem cells, really is based on cell culture. So you need special rooms where the cells can be actually maintained and expanded and transformed into what you want to do. In our case, creating small livers in the lab. And to do that, you need special rooms that are called culture rooms. And these rooms are actually where everything needs to be sterile, everything needs to be in the proper conditions. So that's the heart of any stem cell research. Then there is plenty of equipment, because obviously there is the molecular biology, there is everything that takes care of cellular biology. So many different instruments and techniques that are used every day. Obviously, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. But I think that the most important tool is really the skill of the people that work on this. So it's much more important to have very skilled people, honest people that actually trust their data than the equipment you work with.
Yes, for sure. You mentioned that you use cell culture for your stem cells. Can you explain a little bit, I guess, how you get the stem cells and how exactly they're grown?
Sure. In our case, these are induced pluripotent stem cells. So these are stem cells that are derived from the blood of patients, of people, of donors, I would say. But you don't need to actually source them every time. So you get the blood, you reprogram the cells in the blood to make them, actually to bring them back in time, so that they become capable of becoming any tissue of the body. So that's what a pluripotent stem cell is. And once you have these cells, you can work with them for months, for years. So you don't need to have donors available all the time. These are human cells, so everything we are doing is human, and we keep them in culture, meaning that we have culture dishes that actually where the cells are. Several size dimension. We have also big bioreactors where they are grown in suspension when you need a lot of them, and they are kept with special culture media that provide the cells with everything they need to thrive, to actually expand, to replicate. And also we use special growth factors, special hormones that make the cells into something else. In our case, we actually reproduce the liver development in the lab. So we bring the cells towards becoming liver cells.
And then I guess the goal is to model diseases, or I guess eventually re-infuse them back into the patients, or is that?
Exactly. What you do, the first part is there are, as I told you, there are 2 different actually big arms in our research. One is the model. So we model diseases in a dish, and since we now have a representative model, so we can study even complex diseases like liver cirrhosis or liver fibrosis or inflammation. All of that can be studied in a dish. So it allows us to do a lot of studies, a lot of trials, a lot of even drug tests that would be extremely complex to do in humans. And then for the therapy, what we are doing is that we are now at always the preclinical stage, but a little bit an advanced preclinical stage. So we are actually using animals to test these therapies before going into the clinic. Obviously, the advantage of all these systems is that you can really limit the number of animals you need. So that's also at the heart of what we do. We try to limit the impact on the animals as much as possible, and always, assuring the safety of the therapy before we bring this to people. But using as little as few animals as we can, thanks to how the model has been, how the therapy has been built.
That's great. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the therapy, and hopefully we can, or you guys can start treating a lot of patients with the stem cell therapy. What are some things that you enjoy the most, and what are some things that you find challenging about your job?
Yeah, it depends on the hat I'm wearing,
Yeah.
but obviously the when I look at the clinic, my clinical job, I'm a pediatrician. So basically I work with children. So this is the part I like, the interaction with kids every day. This is the part I like. Obviously it's also the part I hate, when they are very sick and when you lose a patient. So it's, on both the best part of my job and the worst part of my job. In terms of research, what's amazing is the brainstorming. It's problem solving. So when you sit around a table with your students, with your people, with your team, and then you try to solve a problem, you try to understand a disease, you try to understand how to treat a new disease. The part that's much less interesting is when you have all the financial, discussions, when you have to find money to fund your research. That's the part that we all have to do. It takes a lot of our time, but it's not fun at all, obviously.
No, grants are definitely not fun to be writing. So where do you see the future of stem cell research going? I guess that's kind of a broad question, but
Yeah. The future is the therapy. So the future is the next step for us, but for everyone working in the field, and then everyone in different tissues, in different organs, is really now moving to the clinic. So I think the stem cell field is now mature. There are clinical trials, more and more clinical trials that are being launched, and there is now a good understanding by the regulating agencies also about the risks, about the advantages. So we are now finally ready to move into the clinic. So the next step is to prove that all these therapies are really as effective and as safe as we hope they are, and then after that, finally bringing this to the people. So finally starting to treat the thousands of patients that are waiting. So this is the future I see in the next 5 years, basically.
do you see any, or do you foresee any problems with the ethical implications of using stem cells, given that I guess you guys grow them in culture, but I guess in a broader sense, do you foresee any problems ethically?
Yeah, so about the ethical implications, it depends on the kind of cells you're using, obviously. So there are some stem cells that are a little bit more concerning for regulators, I would say, that are actually maybe need a little bit more proofs, works, or things to be done. But overall, I don't see any problem with the ethical, the ethics of using stem cells. So there are stem cells that obviously the origin of the stem cells needs to be verified. Obviously, the kind of the safety needs to be well proven, but overall the stem cell field, it's absolutely not a problem in terms of ethical concerns.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you would like to share about your career path or as a physician or researcher that we didn't touch on?
Oh, I think we touched a lot of things. Obviously, I didn't get into any detail of what we do, but that would be boring for everyone. I think it's this kind of talks. It's important that the young people that are following this conversation might understand that getting to be a clinician scientist, it's an amazing job. It's fun. It's very interesting. It's different every time, and it's obviously very hard, but it's a fun, interesting, meaningful job that can actually change the life of people, and that's also very well paid. So it's a no-brainer as a career path if you're interested in this field. But also, it's important to tell them that it's getting into medicine has to be done for the right reasons. So you have to get into medicine because you want to help people, because you want to make a difference, not because you want to get particular position or a good salary. So that's it's too hard and too long a training to get there, that if you don't love it, it's gonna be very hard to succeed.
That's great advice. And on that topic, what do you have any other advice for high school students, especially who are thinking about what to do next and who might be considering a similar career path?
Yeah, as I said, it's really about the passion. So if you're passionate, go for it. It's not the school you're in, it's not your notes, that's not important. There are ways of doing that. When I got into medicine in Italy, where there is a lot of unemployment for doctors, where the salaries are absolutely not good for doctors, but I did it because I loved it. I got into research when I could have actually easily stayed only with my clinical activity that at that time was already launched. So it's hard, but it's fun. And it makes a difference for people. So if you love it, just go for it, and there is always a way.
That was great. Thank you so much, Dr. Paganelli, for sharing your experiences and expertise with us today. This was really informative for me, and I'm sure the students are going to find your journey very inspiring. And thank you to all the educators and students who are also watching today.